Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome to With Jewish Youth. This wonderful, exciting program that has won the acclaim, the fame, the interest, the hearts, the minds of old and young. More and more. Mail keeps coming in. People keep writing in. Telephones are coming through of people who suggest certain subjects to be discussed on our program. And people who are sending money, finally, beginning to support these programs and beginning to understand how beautiful and how valuable and how wonderful these programs are. Rather than sit and waste a half-hour time, they feel that this half hour brightens their home and brings in a new light and a new way of thinking and sort of opens their eyes to new vistas, to new ways to return to God. And the most interesting subjects that are discussed on our programs, as you've been listening to for the past 6.5 weeks approximately, I'm sure that you too, my dear friends, have found these programs to be exactly what we say they are. Tonight we have invited two wonderful young ladies who are here with us to discuss a very interesting institution. It's called Neshei Ub'nos Chabad. The Executive Council has, of course, a president and officers, and I've invited a very outstanding person, Rabbi Miriam Popack, who is a member of the Executive Council of Neshei Ub'nos Chabad since its inception 9 years ago. 19 years ago. She is the out-of-town coordinator for Neshei Chabad. She's the past president of Neshei groups, and she was the one who was responsible for organizing all the 12 out-of-town regional conventions of Neshei Ub'nos Chabad. She's been a teacher by herself for 20 years, has been active in public life, been doing a tremendous amount for Judaism. Together with her is another very lovely young lady, Chanie Rosenfeld, who is a student in the Beth Rivka Seminary. She is the president of National Ub'nos Chabad and was active this past summer in Camp Amuna for young adult women. Welcome to With Jewish Youth. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and I'm sure tonight's program is going to be one that's certainly going to be very interesting and going to win the hearts of everybody listening, and especially, of course, the ladies. Rabbi Popack, would you be good enough to sort of set this thing right and get the program on the road by telling us what is Neshei Ub'nos Chabad?
Rabbi Hecht, Neshei Ub'nos Chabad is the women's division of the Chabad Lubavitcher movement. It is an international organization founded 19 years ago under the inspiration and guidance of the Lubavitcher Rebbe Shalita, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Chabad Hasidism, as you know, Rabbi Hecht, views life with an intellectual but uncompromising approach to Judaism. The women's role is as important, dynamic, and participating as the men's. Its philosophy is based on the unconditional love of all Jews and teaches that Judaism and the Torah are the property of all Jews, regardless of station or background. The Jewish woman is told that upon her rests the responsibility for the entire Jewish nation. It is her duty to relate the teachings of Judaism to the everyday life of her family. Our prime purpose, then, is to educate Jewish mothers and daughters in the knowledge and understanding of the Torah and its precepts, thereby enabling them to maintain high spiritual ideals in this topsy-turvy world. We are neither fundraising nor politically affiliated, and we open our hearts and doors to women and girls of all ages, no matter who they are or where they are.
Rebbe Popack, from what you've just said, you sound like a liberated woman. I take it that this is the misconception that the world has, that when a woman plays a role in Jewish life and in the great role and responsibilities that have been placed upon the Jewish women, they feel that they are enslaved. But the way you presented it here tonight, I'm sure that any young lady, any woman listening to you tonight would feel very honored to be able to share in their responsibility as a woman, and as you put it, on the same par of the men, that you're no less, you're not second class, and you're not as forceful or as influential. From my experience, I find that it's the wives who usually run the show. You know, when I married my wife, I said to her, listen, you should know that in my life, in the way I was brought up, that the man has to be the head of the house. And don't forget this. And she said to me, okay, I agree with you, but there's only one little thing that I want from you. I'm going to be the neck, and wherever the neck goes, the head goes automatically. So I found out for a long time ago that it's the women who run the show, and they are responsible for most of the great accomplishments that we have in Jewish life. And you put it so very beautifully, and I'm really very happy that you got this across. Now, tell me, I understand that we are now involved, Ub'nos Chabad is now involved in a convention out of town. Now, this is a little striking for this class of women like you and your helpers to go out and bring together this kind of a group in an out of town. New York is used to these things, but to go out of town, I think this is rather a little bit unique, if I may just use a kind word. Rabbi Popack, would you be good enough to tell my radio audience and me something about this regional convention? How did they originate? Why was there a need for it? And how did this all come about? When was all this started, in fact?
Well, Rabbi Hecht, about 13 years ago, at a meeting of the Executive Council, the women discussed the problem of the people out of town who never ever could attend our national conventions. We had been having at that time about 6 national conventions with delegates from all parts of the United States, but all that we could expect from each city was at the most about 20 or 25. We realized that the city had hundreds of Jewish people that could never be reached. They couldn't possibly come here. Our problem was, how could we reach them, and to which cities should we go? You are familiar with the term shlichus. The uniqueness of our philosophy is that we are constantly concerned about our fellow Jews everywhere, physically and spiritually. The Rebbe Shlita inspires our young couples to want to go out, to seek out communities who need a new spark and a revitalization. This is the keystone of the Chabad philosophy, and we call it Uforatzto. We go to different parts of the United States, and these young couples leave their homes, they leave their families, they leave everything that is near and dear to them, and they go to cities where they have many physical hardships, where they have to bake their own challah, import meat hundreds of miles away, where they suffer sometimes very cold climates. The distance is very far. They give up a lot in order to go on this shlichus, but they go b'simcha, with happiness. They invite us to come to these cities. They feel that we can help them by coming out there. They feel that if we come there, first of all, we can reach women and girls who are not necessarily affiliated or committed, and inspire them and help them to enrich their lives through the observance of Torah and mitzvos. Then we make them feel and realize that they are part of an international network when we come out there. And of course, the big reason that we come out is to revitalize our ranks, our young people who go out there, to provide our leaders with a wealth of practical material with which to continue their difficult task of furthering Yiddishkeit in their communities.
Rabbi Popack, while we're on the subject of how this started, and I can very well see how a battalion of you women coming in and together with the younger girls coming into a city where you revolutionize, at least for the couple of days that you're there, you make an Ibekernish. I can understand this very well, and I'm sure there must be many, many women who just come out of curiosity to see what you people look like, how you think, how you speak, and how you live, and try to get some insight into your own way of life. Where is this year's convention going to take place?
Rabbi Hecht, this year our convention will take place in Nashville, Tennessee, the weekend of February 15th to the 18th. We have 2 buses of girls, about 100 girls, that are planning to make a trip of 18 hours in order to take part in this convention, as well as about 50 women that are going on a plane.
By the way, when these Kanahara, these 150 people come out, where are they put up? Is there a hotel nearby, a motel, private homes? I mean, you can't eat in all these houses, I'm sure, out there. If our own young men have these difficulties and they have to bake their own challah and import their own meat, how does this all work?
Rabbi Hecht, they have more than just these 150. Let's not forget the different communities surrounding Nashville. The entire central western region of the United States is going to be represented at this convention. The girls are going to stay in a motel, the women in private homes. Everyone will eat together. There will be catered meals at a nominal cost. I guess that answers your question, Rabbi Hecht.
Are you importing a kosher caterer? How is this going to work? This is the technicality. I just want to know how this works out in case I decide one of these days to organize one of these things in some wee out little town.
Rabbi Hecht, it's not easy. I spoke to Mrs. Posner in Nashville. She said there's no kosher bakery in Nashville. They're doing a lot of their own baking. The meat, the chicken, is being imported from New York. Everything is being done in private homes. It's really very personal catering. And there is a caterer who is being brought in, a kosher caterer, to cater the entire all of the dinners, all of the meals. But of course, getting the food together is the big problem.
So in other words, these are volunteer women who are going to be working at getting this stuff together, and this fellow will sort of supervise and coordinate all these activities so that you could have this. This sounds great, and it must be a thrilling experience. So if you get the burnt piece of chicken, you don't know which lady to holler at. Beautiful. Tell me this, what are going to be some of the highlights at this convention?
I just wanted to mention one thing, Rabbi Hecht, that all these women that are working are not Lubavitcher women. The one and only person in the city of Nashville that's Lubavitch is Mrs. Posner. The entire committee of women who are working day and night to make this a convention a success are not Lubavitcher women. They are dedicated to the task of bringing Yiddishkeit to their cities. They have contacted college students from all of the colleges in the southwestern region of the United States, and all of them are coming to this convention. You'll be hearing about that from our Ub'nos president in a little while. Now, your question, I forgot.
Yeah, well, the question is some of the highlights. Give us some of the highlights. Who are you going to be a speaker? What is the central theme, by the way? I know every year you have another theme.
Right. The central theme, the Jewish family, keystone in the Arch of Torah. Rabbi Zalman Posner will deliver the keynote address at the main session on Sunday afternoon. We also have Dr. Irving Block, who will address the audience. He is a professor at the University of Western Ontario, as well as Dr. Abraham Twersky, clinical director of psychiatry at St. Francis General Hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
All right. Now, do you have workshops? Is this only one of these things where you eat and listen to a lot of after-dinner speeches, or is there something more meaningful? I understand there's a Shabbos involved. How do you spend the Shabbos?
The workshops, we will definitely have workshops. That will be that's scheduled for Monday, February 18th. We have resolutions. We have reports from all the cities who are sending delegates. We have a symposium on Monday. Mrs. Posner will be the moderator. The topic is The Jewish Woman Creates. Mrs. Twersky will speak. Mrs. Leah Kahn from Brooklyn and Mrs. Darren from Pittsburgh.
All right. It sounds exciting. There's no question about it. But if you don't mind, Miriam Popack, let me just get a little bit down now to the Ub'nos end. You were representing Nishay. But we also have the president of Ub'nos, as I mentioned before, Chanie Rosenfeld, and I'm sure that she has some interesting things to relate to us. I think before we do any asking of Chanie, let's find out, what is Ub'nos Chabad all about?
You see, the youth of any organization is more idealistic and energetic. They are not tied down yet, or do they have many obligations. In Lubavitch, the youth work with other youth, whereas in other organizations, the adults lead the youth groups. We have groups coming in from different cities for weekends, and we arrange stimulating programs to help them be aware of their Jewish heritage. We sponsor programs for the good of our community and the Jewish community at large. Now, while working with other youth, we do not neglect our own girls. We sponsor Mesiba Shabbos groups, where the girls get together every Shabbos afternoon to dance and sing, and we have leaders telling stories. We sponsor also different learning classes in various different subjects. Now, in the summer, see, we don't have vacation. In the summer, the Ub'nos girls are scattered in different parts of the states, in different camps, as teachers, counselors, and leaders.
Tell me, Chanie, about how large a group would you say is Ub'nos? Does this run into hundreds? And what ages are these girls? Must you be from a Lubavitcher family to become part of Ub'nos, or is this open to everybody? By the way, Rebbetzin Oltein mentioned, Rebbetzin Popack mentioned the term uforatzta. That is, by the way, a term that many of you people may not know, but this is taken from a passage in the Torah where Almighty God speaks to our forefathers and says to him that you should spread out to the four sides of the world and conquer them. And this has been the slogan of Lubavitch, and the women have been working under this sisma, under this slogan, under this banner, just as the men. And when you heard the term before, Uporatzta, you should know whenever you hear it, this is sort of the command to go forth and conquer the world for Yiddishkeit. Well, let's go back now to Chanie, and let's get an answer on what I've asked you about how many and what type of girl and so on.
We have a very large group. There is no age limit. It's any girl that is willing to work under the slogan of Uforatzta. We call her a Ub'nos Chabad. Right now we have a group of about 150 girls.
In this group?
Right.
That sounds great. Now that we know who you are, what you are, now I would like to know, what role do you young ladies play in the convention? I hear, Kanahara, there are 100 young ladies going out. Boy, oh boy, I can just imagine you can conquer a whole city. What is going to be your role in this Nashville convention that's forthcoming, Mi'etz Hashem, very, very soon?
You see, the Ub'nos role at the conventions is to show that there are young girls in our society today that are totally committed to the ideal of Torah and Chassidus, which is demanding and very rewarding. There were many incidents that showed where these girls made a very big impression, which made people realize that Torah is alive and thriving in America today in 1974.
That sounds great. And by the way, let me ask you this, Chanie. Can any girl, now I know we have a lot of girls, young ladies who are listening to this program, and this goes for you too, Rebbetzin Popack. I think we ought to get a joint answer from the two of you. Could anybody now, if for instance, if well, my wife can't go, she's been going away with me, will be in another country, but any woman or any young lady, if they would like to join, how does one go about joining this convention? I would think it could be very stimulating and very exciting. So, Rebbetzin Popack, why don't you give us the sort of the guidelines? Since you've been doing this for Kanahara 12 times over, you should be the real experienced one.
Rabbi Hecht, if anyone is interested in joining the ladies on the chartered flight, they can call Mrs. Seema Goldstein at 774-6398, 774-6398 for flight reservations. If anyone is interested in joining the bus, and by the way, the bus trip is $30 for round trip. The flight is only $82 for the round trip. For the bus trip, call Chanie Rosenfeld at Getney 8-438-7047, 438-7047.
What about the cost? You mentioned something about the meals at a nominal cost. How much is the whole package besides less the journey money?
For the girls, there will be 6 catered meals for only $12. 6 catered meals for only $12. The cost of the Holiday Inn will be $17 for 3 nights lodging. $17 for 3 nights. For the ladies, it will be $18 for the catered meals. No price for lodging. They will be staying at homes. We feel that the women coming into these homes and getting acquainted with the out-of-towners would make, we feel that it makes a good impression on them and on us so that we get acquainted and we get closer to them. However, if there is any woman that would like to stay at the Holiday Inn, this too can be arranged.
Rebbetzin Popack, I think we come now to a very serious part of our discussion tonight. And all of this thing is good and fine and beautiful and wonderful, from the social, from the entertaining part. But after all, there's so much koiches, so much strength is put into this kind of a setup, organizing this, getting it put together and getting the people to come out. I think that what is most important is tachlis. You know, I'm one of these pragmatic fellows who always likes to see what the bottom line tells us. And I think we ought to ask you now this big question. Tell us about some of the interesting incidents and results that have come forth from your convention. You only have about 6 minutes to do this.
Rabbi Hecht, it's hard to know where to start, but I'll take one city. Should I mention the name?
You may.
City of Cleveland, Ohio. We had our 9th convention in Cleveland. Just before.
How many years ago was this?
Well, this is the 12th, so this was 3 years ago, right. Cleveland, Ohio, 4 years ago, had only one Lubavitcher woman who worked on her own. She had a study group there that was going bi-monthly, and I think once a year they ran a function to raise some money for Israel. Also, as an individual, she tried to influence people to come to Camp Amuna, to send their children to camp or schools in New York, but this was only on an individual basis. When we were invited to come to make the convention in Cleveland, there was a meeting to launch the project, at which time very, very prominent people of the city were invited, people who were not from, but there was some, like the head of Hadassah, head of Mizrahi, head of the Federation, a prominent surgeon, and so on. When I came out to Cleveland to launch this project, they were amazed to see that here are a group of women that want to come out to Cleveland, not to raise money, not to ask anything from them, but to come to give them and to help them. Some of them had problems with their children. There was one very wealthy man whose beautiful blonde daughter married a colored fellow. He was ready to do anything for us because he was afraid. He had other children. He knew that this might be the answer. And so the Chabad women made this convention in Cleveland, and after the convention there was a meeting of these people once more. And this time they had some of our young people who had already been influenced by Neshei Chabad. They invited them to this meeting and they asked them a little bit about themselves. And they said, well, we were on dope and we committed every sin under the books, but now, Baruch Hashem, we're from and we're learning and we're trying to influence our parents to do the same. They were so taken by it that one wealthy man said, if you people of Chabad can do so much, I'm going to donate a minibus so that you can ride out to the colleges, to the campuses, and meet some more young people and see what you can do for them. After this, he was so excited about the work that was being done that he actually financed a Chabad house in Cleveland. And at the present time, 3 young couples have gone out on shlichus, as I said before, and they already have classes in Jewish philosophy going in 3 universities, at Case Western Reserve, at Kent State, and at Oberlin College. Many, many students have already started coming to New York to learn in Mechon Chana as well as in Hadar HaTorah. There are at least 15 families that have become Shomer Shabbos, that have made kosher kitchens, and they even have a kosher kitchens club, so that all of these women get together once a week and discuss their problems of keeping kosher, how, why, and how to influence their friends to do the same. They have showers for these women that want kosher kitchens but can't afford them. I would say that this is an immediate result of the convention, and of course we know that will have far, far-reaching effects.
Rabbi Popack, I think that we're all choked up just listening to what you've just told us. It sounds so unbelievable. That from one of these gatherings, I know that most of the conventions always result with a lot of resolutions and a lot of talk and a lot of words being written and spoken, but when it comes to the nitty-gritty of it, there's nothing really to be proud of, nothing really to report. This being a sampling of what these conventions bring forth, I can just imagine why they're so dear to the Lubavitcher Rebbe's heart. and why he puts so much emphasis on them. But I think that we would be remiss if we wouldn't just speak about another very important women's Ub'nos Chabad convention that's taking place in London. And since you are the overall coordinator of Ub'nos Chabad conventions, why don't you tell our radio audience something about the London convention?
Rabbi Hecht, first and foremost, I would like to tell our radio audience that you personally will be the guest speaker at the inaugural dinner in London, England, at the convention of Ub'nos Chabad. This is called the first European convention of Ub'nos Chabad, and it will take place the week of February 19th to the 23rd. There is I see here that as the guest of honor at this inaugural dinner, they will have Mrs. Emanuel Jacobowitz. I understand Rebbetzin Hecht is going with you, Rabbi Hecht.
That's correct. By the way, Rebbetzin Jacobowitz is the chief rabbi's wife of England.
Yes. There is a full week of activities and programs, workshops. This is the first of its kind in Europe, and there will be delegates from every city in Europe, as well as Tunisia, Morocco, Casablanca, and Israel. There will be 17 countries that will participate in this convention. It's interesting to note that the week of our convention will be followed by the convention in England, so that this entire week there will be Jewish Chabad women rededicating themselves to Yiddishkeit throughout the world. I would call this Chabad, Neshei Chabad Week, worldwide.
It's almost going to be Neshei Chabad month, the way we're going, Kanahara. Anyway, Chanie, you want to say yet something? Okay, you got about a half a minute.
I just wanted to say that there will be a representative from the Ub'nos at this convention in London too. This girl is from Eretz Yisrael, and she is coming to the convention in Nashville and going straight to the convention in London.
That's great. Now I got moral support from America following me, so I have no worries, but of course I take your prayers and blessings and good wishes. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another program of With Jewish Youth. I'm so sorry that our clock runs so fast. It seems to me that when I do these shows, the clock seems to run a lot faster than it does in any other part of the day. But it's such a great pleasure to be with you in your homes and to bring you these different programs and to give you a little insight to what's happening in the world. It's not all as bleak and as black and as doomed as some of us sometimes feel or think, but thank God there is a brighter side to the coin. There are still men and women in this world who are dedicated, who are self-sacrificing, who are willing to give up of their own personal pleasures in life to help other people, to see to bring the light of Torah and Yiddishkeit into the world. And there are young ladies, as Chanie and others of her 150 group Kanahara, who are working so hard to try to convince, to interest, and to awaken the hearts of their own peers, of their own girls of their own age, to also take on this new lifestyle. From my end of it, it's been a pleasure being with you, and I hope that before I leave Im Yetzer Hashem for my London trip, which will be tonight, approximately at this hour. I'll be on the plane by now. This is being taped, of course. I will have already prepared some future programs, but whatever the case, if I'm not on, there will be a guest host for you. Tune in, and I do hope you will enjoy our programs. In the meanwhile, those of you who want to help us in our work, send your contributions for the support of this program to With Jewish Youth, 824 Eastern Parkway, Brooklyn, New York, 11213. Seid mal alle gesund und stark, and until tomorrow at the same time, God bless you all.